Champagne sparkled in tall glasses, while laughter echoed through the perfectly manicured garden of the Whitmore estate. The guests, dressed in tailored suits and flowing designer dresses, found their entertainment not in music or speeches, but in a cruel spectacle at the center of the party. Olivia stood still, her wrists bound tightly to an ornate wooden post that had once been a garden decoration. Now it served a different purpose. Her dark skin bore fresh marks from the coarse rope, and her once elegant dress, modest, carefully chosen for the evening, hung in tatters. She remained silent as a wave of amusement passed through the crowd. "There's our favorite failure," Catherine announced with mock warmth, lifting her glass. 15 years in this family, and still the same disappointment. More laughter followed. "Remind me, how many jobs have you lost this year?" Catherine continued, savoring every word. 3? 4? Someone quipped. Olivia's adoptive mother, Eleanor, offered a smile that hovered between embarrassment and pride, while her husband Richard chuckled as if it were all harmless fun. But it wasn't harmless. This wasn't the first time they had done something like this. Olivia had never truly been one of them. Not really. To the Whitmores, she was a symbol, an experiment, a performance of charity they could display when convenient. "I always thought she had potential," Eleanor mused loudly to a group of guests nearby. "But I suppose not everyone rises to the occasion." "We adopted her to set a good example, but in the end, she became more of a cautionary tale." Whispers circled. Some guests glanced awkwardly at Olivia. Most didn't bother to hide their amusement. Thomas approached, a smug grin stretched across his face. Olivia's breath caught. For a brief second, she thought he might offer help. Instead, he tossed cold water in her face, laughing as he stepped back. "There. Maybe now you'll think clearly enough to realize you don't belong." An older woman leaned in close to Olivia, her voice soft. "You know, if you just tried harder to be like us, things wouldn't be so difficult." Olivia blinked slowly, holding her head high. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. Years of subtle exclusion, of cruel jokes, of being kept at the margins of every photo and family memory had taught her a different kind of endurance. Somewhere near the back of the crowd, a guest who hadn't been there earlier watched intently. "How long does this go on?" he asked Eleanor casually. "Oh, just until the party ends," she answered with a light laugh. "It's a tradition. We call it the shame post. Helps teach responsibility." What she didn't know was that the thin ropes binding Olivia were far weaker than the ones that had kept her tethered emotionally for over a decade. And those were already fraying. Olivia's eyes flicked to the large gold clock mounted on the garden wall. 7:30 p.m. A barely there smile tugged at the corner of her mouth. Hidden by her calm exterior, a countdown had already begun. No one noticed. The faint buzz from her smartwatch. The message flashed for just a second before disappearing. 5 minutes out. Ready. 3 months earlier, Olivia had sat on a weathered bench outside a row of glass buildings, blinking back tears after yet another failed job interview. The rejection had been framed politely, cloaked in vague words about cultural fit. She'd heard the same excuse too many times to be fooled. As she sat there, nursing the weight of rejection and disappointment, a man sat beside her without asking. He didn't look like an executive. Simple clothes, relaxed posture, but something about him radiated presence. "Bad day?" he asked, offering a clean handkerchief. "You could say that," she replied, surprised at her own openness. "Tell." "Me," he said gently. "I've got time." His name was Marcus Chen, and that moment was the first time in years someone had seen her pain without judgment. She shared her story, the roadblocks, the dismissals, the exhaustion of being unseen, despite working harder than anyone else. She left out the Whitmores. Some things felt too raw to expose. When she finished, he simply said, "You're the kind of person my company needs." She almost laughed. "You don't even know my name." I know enough, he said with a confident smile. I know resilience when I see it. A week later, she walked through the glass doors of Horizon Innovations as a newly hired analyst. At dinner, Catherine had snorted into her wine when she heard. Probably one of those corporate charity hires, she said. They must have quotas, Richard added, chuckling. None of them knew Eleanor had sabotaged Olivia's last 3 jobs, whispering lies to her employers under the guise of concern. But this time, Olivia had been chosen by someone who believed in her, and someone with the power to protect her. Marcus wasn't just Horizon's CEO. He was its founder, a billionaire in plain clothes who preferred to be judged for who he was, not what he owned. Under his leadership, Olivia thrived. Her talent for data analysis, long ignored, quickly earned attention. At home, however, the atmosphere only grew colder. The Whitmores responded to her success with intensified cruelty. The gifts got cheaper, the insults sharper. She tries. So hard, Eleanor murmured one day over brunch. But some people just don't come from the right kind of background. The smirks disappeared only momentarily when Olivia pulled into the driveway in a new, modest sedan. Not flashy, just hers. What they didn't know was how often Olivia checked her smartwatch with a flicker of hope in her eyes. What started as professional respect with Marcus had deepened into something more. They shared long conversations, stolen moments, growing trust. One evening, after another dinner where Thomas accidentally spilled sauce on her blouse, Olivia met Marcus at a quiet cafe. I can't do it anymore, she said, her voice shaking. I've tried. I've really tried. And they still treat me like I'm nothing. He reached across the table, holding her hand. Then why stay? She hesitated. I made a promise to my mom. She thought Eleanor would take care of me. I wanted to believe she was right. Marcus's gaze softened. What if I told you there's another family waiting for you? Weeks later, they were married in secret. A quiet ceremony, no guests, no fanfare, just truth. Olivia wanted it that way. I need to prove something first, she told Marcus. Not for them, for me. From that day on, she played the part the Whitmores expected. Quiet, meek, accepting. But behind her calm was a plan. Every cruel text, every whisper, every degrading joke, she documented everything. She built a case not just of abuse, but of systemic, deliberate cruelty. Catherine's birthday arrived. Olivia knew the routine. She played along. Her smartwatch recorded every second. Marcus, already at the party, captured it from the crowd. In the garage, 2 people waited. Sofia Martinez, an investigative journalist with a reputation for exposing the powerful, and James Washington, a civil rights attorney with a list of high-profile victories. By 7:45 p.m., the air shifted. The drone of a helicopter replaced the laughter as it descended on the field beside the estate. Guests looked up, startled, as flower arrangements blew off tables. The Horizon Innovations logo gleamed on the side. Eleanor's face hardened. Who gave them permission to land here? Marcus appeared through the crowd, flanked by Sophia and James. The silence was instant. All eyes turned as he approached the pole. Richard stepped forward. Who do you think you are? Marcus didn't respond. He pulled a small knife from his pocket and sliced the ropes with care, then wrapped Olivia in his jacket. The evening air was heavy with tension as Olivia stepped forward, her eyes steady and voice unwavering. A hush fell over the garden as the guests turned to face her. Standing beside her was a tall man with calm authority in his eyes. My name is Marcus Chin, he announced, looking directly at Richard. I'm the CEO of Horizon Innovations and Olivia's husband. A glass slipped from Catherine's hand and shattered, the sound sharp against the silence. Eleanor gave a hollow laugh. Her husband? That's nonsense. Olivia's barely had a date in her life. Before anyone could respond, another figure stepped forward. Sofia Martinez, CNN. We're here documenting a series on discrimination and emotional trauma within elite families. Richard's voice cut through the moment. You're trespassing. This is private property. A man in a dark suit calmly held up a folder. Actually, we're here with full permission from Olivia Chun, a legal resident. James Washington, civil rights attorney. And these are the court orders that grant her full rights to host us here today. A ripple of recognition passed through the crowd at the mention of Washington's name. Richard's expression faltered. Olivia finally broke the silence. For 15 years, you all convinced me I was nothing. You made me believe I was broken, unwanted. I was your secret, your project. You're confused, Catherine began, but her words were drowned out as the garden screens suddenly flickered. The slideshow that once proudly displayed family portraits was replaced by damning messages, text conversations between family members. Catherine, remind her that being taken in doesn't make her one of us. Eleanor, I spoke with the school. We can keep her out of the gala. She's not stable. Richard, diversity initiative gone wrong. Raising a black girl is more exhausting than I imagined. The murmurs among the guests grew louder. Some looked shocked, others ashamed. These are just a few of the messages I collected, Olivia said, her tone steady. I've also documented injuries, audio recordings, and medical reports. She slowly rolled up her sleeve, revealing scars that had faded but not disappeared. This is absurd, Thomas barked, moving toward her. You're destroying this family. Marcus stepped forward to block him. Is that what you call it? A family? What part of being a family includes humiliation, emotional torture, and sabotage? The screens changed again, this time showing financial reports. Money quietly funneled from the Whitmore Foundation to personal accounts. Red flags dotted the documents. You don't understand, Eleanor stammered. We had to protect our image. Olivia's voice cut through the air. You mean your illusion? You cared more about perception than the child you claimed to love. Above them, drones hovered, some with news network logos. Sophia nodded. You're being broadcast. Liv, this isn't a secret anymore. Richard turned pale. We can discuss this privately. We can reach a settlement. I'm not asking for your money, Olivia said. I'm asking for recognition. I'm asking to be seen. James Washington stepped forward. Unfortunately, what we've uncovered includes grounds for legal action, emotional abuse, possible physical harm, and financial misconduct. The crowd around the Whitmores began to thin as guests realized their presence had become a liability. The aura of untouchability had shattered. Eleanor's elder sister, Elizabeth, approached Olivia quietly. I always suspected. I should have said something. I'm sorry. You chose silence, Olivia replied softly. Now you know what it cost. Marcus wrapped an arm around her shoulders. Olivia paused and turned back one last time. You want to know the difference between us, Catherine? You were born loved. I had to earn every crumb of acceptance, and even then, it was never real. But I don't need your approval anymore. They walked away as the foundation of the Whitmore legacy began to collapse, exposed for what it had always been, a carefully constructed lie. By morning, the story was everywhere. Olivia's name had become a symbol, not of tragedy, but of defiance. Her strength echoed across the country. In her only interview months later, Olivia explained it simply. This was never about revenge. It was about truth, about breaking the EAR, silence that so many are forced to live in. She now lived in Chicago with Marcus in a modest apartment filled with warmth and authenticity. No longer the quiet girl standing in the shadows, Olivia was transformed, confident, driven, whole. The Whitmores faced a rapid downfall. Richard was forced to resign from corporate boards after evidence revealed his long history of undermining black employees. Eleanor, stripped of social connections, found her charity friends unwilling to associate with her. Her pathetic attempts to salvage her reputation only dug the hole deeper. Catherine's wedding was called off. Her influencer brand collapsed. Even her apology video, teary and filtered, was drowned by public outrage. She closed her comments when it became clear people weren't buying the act. Thomas fared the worst, with former employees revealing years of abuse, lawsuits stacked up. He lost his company, his title, and any remaining reputation. The family's so-called foundation was audited. Years of fraudulent tax claims and misused funds surfaced. The estate where Olivia had once been mocked was sold to cover debts, but Olivia didn't stop there. With Marcus by her side, she founded the Initiative for Ethical Adoption, an organization dedicated to helping adopted children, especially those navigating transracial identities, find the support and dignity they deserved. "Scars stay," she said at the center's opening ceremony. "But they don't define us. They teach us. They shape what we build next." Aunt Elizabeth joined her cause, volunteering weekly. "Silence is complicity," she told support groups. "We must choose courage even when it costs us." 5 years later, Olivia's memoir hit the shelves. Not just a retelling of trauma, but a deep exploration of healing, identity, and voice. The book became an academic staple in university programs and a personal anthem for many. At a book signing in Manhattan, Olivia recognized a woman in line. Catherine, no longer the woman of manicured perfection, but someone smaller, quieter. "I don't expect forgiveness," Catherine whispered. "But your words changed me." Olivia met her eyes, steady. It was never about forgiveness, it was about accountability. She handed her a signed copy. "I hope you find peace. I've finally found mine." Olivia Chun now leads one of the nation's most respected advocacy groups for adopted youth. Her work has sparked legislative change, challenging outdated systems, and advocating for more compassionate adoption practices. The pole where she was once tied is now a monument, symbolizing transformation, not shame. With Marcus, she adopted 2 children, raising them in a home where identity is honored, not erased. Their doors are open to others aging out of the adoption system, offering the belonging she was once denied. She often speaks at conferences and schools, leaving her audiences with the same message: don't let your pain be your prison. Let it be your blueprint. Let it be your revolution. The Whitmores faded from relevance. Richard faced trial. Thomas served court-ordered community service. Eleanor lived quietly, her name tainted forever. The mansion was transformed into a youth center, a place of hope where once there had been silence and cruelty. And Olivia? She became the proof that dignity isn't something others grant you. It's something you claim, even if you have to tear down a dynasty to find it.